Okay, so today we're diving into some pretty serious cybersecurity news, straight from the Cybersecurity Hub.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, their recent article warning over 2,000 Palo Alto Networks devices compromised, exploiting recent patch for 0 days. It's a bit unsettling, to say the least.
I can imagine.
Especially when you consider that we're talking about Palo Alto Networks, a company that's, known for their pretty robust security solutions.
Right. Their firewalls are used by so many organizations, so this could have a pretty big impact.
Huge. And that's what makes this whole thing so interesting. The article, it highlights two specific vulnerabilities, CVE 2024-00112 and CVE 2024-9474. Now, the good news is they've been patched recently. But the not so good news is they're already being exploited.
Yeah, that's the issue with these zero-day vulnerabilities. I mean, they're basically invisible to the software vendor.
Yeah.
Until someone finds them out in the wild. And that gives attackers a head start.
It's like finding a hidden key to someone's house.
Exactly. You can just slip in, do all sorts of damage before anyone even knows you're there.
And in this case, the damage could be pretty extensive, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So can you kind of walk us through what these vulnerabilities actually allow an attacker to do?
Sure. So CVE 2024-00112, this one is it's particularly bad because it allows attackers to completely bypass authentication. You can think of it like having a fake ID that gets you past all the security checkpoints.
Okay.
And once they're in, that's where CVE 2024-9474 comes into play.
Yeah.
This one allows for privilege escalation, basically giving the attacker the highest level of access.
So like a master key that unlocks everything.
Yeah, pretty much.
So at first they sneak past security,
Yeah.
and then they grab the master key.
Nah,
Not a good combination.
Not at all.
What kind of damage are we talking about here?
Well, once they have that level of control, they can do a lot of damage. I mean, they could steal sensitive data, disrupt operations, even use the compromised firewall as a launch pad to attack other systems on the network.
Like giving a burglar the keys to your home security system.
Exactly. They can disable the alarms, unlock the doors, even watch your every move.
That's a scary thought. And to make matters worse, the article says that Palo Alto Networks has confirmed that these exploits are happening right now. And the attackers are even using VPNs to hide their activity.
Right. It's like they're wearing masks so no one recognizes them on the security cameras.
Makes it a lot harder to track them down.
It does. But thankfully, we have organizations like Shadow Server. They're really good at tracking this kind of activity.
And what they've found is pretty concerning, because Palo Alto Networks initially said that only a small number of devices were affected. But Shadow Server is reporting over 2,700 exposed devices, with over 2,000 already compromised.
Yeah, that's a huge difference.
It makes you wonder if there's more to this story than we know.
It does. It shows how important it is to have independent verification.
Ah!
And for security vendors to be totally transparent when things like this happen.
We need to know the real scope of the problem if we're going to fix it. And it looks like the government's taking this seriously, too. The article mentioned that CISA, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, they've added these vulnerabilities to their known exploited vulnerabilities catalog.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. What does that actually mean?
Well, it means they see this as a major threat. They're not taking any chances. Federal agencies are required to patch their systems by December 9th.
So it's a pretty clear message to everyone.
Oh, yeah. Both public and private sector organizations need to address this right away.
And the thing is, this isn't even the first time this has happened to Palo Alto Networks. The article mentioned that they were hit with another vulnerability earlier this year in their expedition tool. It almost seems like they're being targeted.
It does seem that way. And I think it reflects a larger trend that we're seeing. Security products are becoming targets themselves.
Because if you can hack the tools that are supposed to be protecting us,
well, then you've got a huge advantage.
So what can people do to protect themselves?
Well, the first thing is patching their systems.
It's obvious.
It is. And Palo Alto Networks has urged all their users to do it immediately. But it's not enough just to react to these vulnerabilities after they've been exploited.
So what else can we do?
We need to be more proactive. We need a layered approach to security.
What do you mean by that?
And instead of relying on just one vendor or one product, organizations should have multiple layers of defense.
Oh, I see.
Each layer designed to handle different types of threats.
So like having multiple locks on your door.
Exactly. Even if one fails, the others are still there to keep the bad guys out.
Makes sense. But even with the best locks, a determined thief can still find a way in, right?
That's true. And that's why it's so important to be prepared for the worst case scenario.
What happens if, despite all our precautions, there's still a breach?
That's where having a solid incident response plan comes in.
Okay, so like a plan B.
Exactly. It outlines what you'll do to contain the breach. assess the damage, and recover as quickly as possible.
So like a fire drill for your digital world.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
Everyone knows what to do, who to contact if the alarm goes off.
And just like a fire drill, you need to practice it regularly.
Right, so that everyone's ready if a real incident happens.
This all goes back to what you said earlier. Cybersecurity is an ongoing process, not a one-time fix.
Absolutely. The threats are always evolving, so our defenses need to evolve too.
And with AI and machine learning becoming more common, I imagine the future of cybersecurity will be completely different.
It will. AI and ML have the potential to revolutionize how we approach security.
In what way?
They can analyze huge amounts of data, identify patterns. They can even take proactive steps to prevent or contain threats.
So instead of putting out the fire after it starts, we're using AI to detect the smoke and stop the fire from even happening.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
And this is where threat intelligence is so important.
What do you mean?
The more we understand about the attackers, their tactics, their tools, the better we can predict what they'll do next.
So it's like a game of chess.
Exactly. We need to study our opponent, anticipate their strategy, and plan our defenses accordingly.
And think several moves ahead.
Right. What new vulnerabilities might pop up? What new attack methods are being developed? How can we stay ahead of the game?
And that's where the human element is still so important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even with AI and ML, we need experts who can analyze the data, interpret the results, and make smart decisions.
So it's not just about coding and algorithms.
It's about understanding human behavior psychology, even the motivations behind these cyber attacks.
Cybersecurity is about protecting information systems and people.
Exactly. We need to look at the whole picture, from individual users to the global network.
It's a complex world that's constantly changing.
It is, but it's also full of possibilities.
Well, this deep dive has definitely given me a lot to think about. From zero-day vulnerabilities to AI, it's clear that cybersecurity is a field that demands our attention and our action.
It's a challenge for sure, but it's also an opportunity.
How so?
By using new technologies, developing new strategies, and promoting a culture of security awareness, we can build a more secure digital future for everyone.
That's a great point. So what are some of the biggest challenges and opportunities you see on the horizon? Where do you think this is all heading?
That's a great question, and it deserves a deeper dive of its own. Let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back to explore that.
Sounds good. So we're talking about like a whole new way of thinking about cybersecurity.
Yeah, it's not just about setting up firewalls and hoping for the best.
Right. It's a constant process.
Exactly. The threats are always changing, so we need to be able to adapt.
But where do we even begin? It all seems so overwhelming.
Well, the first step is awareness. The more you understand the threats and what could happen, the better prepared you'll be to protect yourself.
Okay, so awareness. But what does that look like in real life?
Well, it starts with staying informed, reading articles, following industry blogs, even listening to podcasts like this one.
Right, anything that keeps you up to date on the latest threats.
Exactly. Because when it comes to cybersecurity, ignorance is definitely not bliss.
Not at all.
And awareness also means understanding your own vulnerabilities. What kind of data do you store? What systems do you rely on? Where are the weak points in your security?
So it's like doing a security audit of your own digital life.
Exactly. You need to identify those entry points for attackers.
And once you know your weak spots, you can start putting measures in place to protect them.
Right. That's where that layered approach we talked about comes in.
So firewalls, intrusion detection systems, anti-malware software.
All of those are important pieces. But layered security goes beyond just the technical stuff. It also includes things like strong passwords, multi-factor authentication, and regular security training for your employees.
Hold on, employee training. Why is that so important?
Because humans are often the weakest link. Attackers use things like phishing emails and malicious links to trick people into giving up information or giving them access to systems.
So it's not just about stopping hackers from breaking in. It's also about being aware of the tricks they use to get us to open the door ourselves.
Exactly. And that's why employee training is so crucial. It helps people recognize those threats and avoid falling victim to them.
Like a crash course in cybersecurity self-defense.
Exactly. If your employees are well trained, they can be your strongest asset when it comes to cybersecurity.
Okay, so we've got awareness layered defenses, employee training. It sounds like we're building a pretty strong fortress. But let's be real. No matter how careful we are, something could still slip through the cracks.
You're right. No system is perfect. And that's why it's essential to have a plan for when a breach happens.
So we need like a cybersecurity SWAT team on call?
Not quite.
Yeah.
But it's a similar idea. You need a clear incident response plan.
Okay, what's that?
It outlines the steps you'll take to contain the breach, figure out the damage, and get back to normal as quickly as possible.
So like a fire drill for your digital world?
Exactly. Everyone knows what to do, who to call when the alarm goes
Yeah,
off.
just like a fire drill, you practice it regularly.
Right. So everyone's prepared if something actually happens.
This all goes back to what you were saying before. Cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination.
Exactly. We can't get complacent. The threats are always evolving, so we need to evolve with them.
And with things like AI and machine learning becoming more and more common, I imagine the future of cybersecurity will be pretty wild.
It will be AI and machine learning have the potential to totally change how we approach security.
How so?
Well, they can analyze huge amounts of data, find patterns that humans might miss, and they can even take steps to stop threats before they happen.
So instead of reacting to a fire after it starts, we're using AI to see the smoke and stop the fire from even starting.
That's a great way to put it. And this is where threat intelligence comes in.
Threat intelligence.
It's all about understanding the attackers, their methods, their tools. The more we know about them, the better we can predict their next move.
So it's like a game of chess.
Exactly. You need to study your opponent, anticipate their strategies,
Yeah.
and then plan your defenses.
And be thinking several moves ahead.
Exactly. What new vulnerabilities might pop up? What new attack methods are they developing? How can we stay ahead of the curve?
And that's where humans are still so important, right?
Of course. Even with AI and machine learning, we need experts who can understand the data, interpret it, and make informed decisions.
So it's not just about the technology.
It's also about understanding human behavior psychology and even the motivations behind these cyber attacks.
Cybersecurity is about protecting data systems and people.
Exactly. It's about the whole picture.
Yeah.
From individual users all the way up to the global network.
It's a complex and ever-changing landscape.
It is, but it's also full of opportunity.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about. We've covered so much, but I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on the future of cybersecurity. Where do you think all of this is heading?
That's a great question, and it's one that we should definitely explore further.
Okay, so we've talked about these vulnerabilities and this new approach to cybersecurity and AI and machine learning. But where does it all lead? What does the future of cybersecurity really look like?
You know, thinking back to those exposed firewalls, it makes you wonder if even a top security company is having these kinds of problems. What does that mean for everyone else?
Yeah, it is a little unsettling. It feels like we're always trying to catch up, like the attackers are always one step ahead.
I think there's some truth to that. But the future of cybersecurity isn't just about reacting. It's about becoming more proactive,
Yeah.
even predictive.
Predictive. You mean like trying to figure out what attacks might happen before they even do?
Exactly. And that's where AI and machine learning come in. They can analyze all this data, find patterns, and see things that might signal an attack is coming.
So instead of waiting for a fire to start, we're using AI to spot the smoke.
That's a great way to put it. And this is where threat intelligence becomes really important.
Threat intelligence.
Yeah, knowing as much as we can about the attackers, their tactics, their tools, who they're targeting, the better we can predict what they'll do next.
Like a game of chess.
Exactly. You study your opponent, you try to figure out their strategy, and then you plan your own moves.
And think several steps ahead.
Right. What new vulnerabilities might pop up? What new ways of attacking are they coming up with? How can we stay ahead of the game?
And that's where humans are still so important.
Absolutely. Even with all the AI and machine learning, we need people who can understand all that data and make the right decisions.
So it's more than just the technology.
Right. It's also understanding how people behave, what motivates these attacks. Cybersecurity is about protecting data and systems, but also people.
It's about the big picture.
Yeah.
From individuals to the whole world.
Exactly. It's a complex world, but it's also full of opportunities.
This deep dive has given me so much to think about.
Me too.
It's clear that cybersecurity is constantly changing, and we all need to pay attention and do our part.
I agree. By using new technologies and being aware of the threats, we can make the digital world safer for everyone.
I want to thank you for sharing your expertise with us. And to all our listeners out there, stay vigilant, stay informed, and stay curious. Until next time,